May I ask your master's name? In which immortal mountain and blessed land do you practice? The female fairy in front of Yun-Yi is very beautiful and noble. She is definitely a true fairy and a beautiful woman. Most likely, she is still from a prestigious and upright family. Otherwise, how could she possibly come to Kunlun to listen to the teachings? Shiji, said the fairy lightly. Shiji. That goddess of the goddess, the most unjust seed, Shiji Empress. The fairy who was tricked to death by Nezha. The cannon fodder that opened with a boxed lunch and opened the curtain of the divine ceremony with one hand. Yun-Yi felt the thunder rolling in the sky, as if there were 10,000 galloping horses running on his head. Damn it, his master was actually Shiji, it's so sad. Fortunately, Yun-Yi has golden fingers that can pluck the wool of his master. He doesn't have to work hard to cultivate, and his strength is not just 1,000,000,000 points from then on. There was an additional pair of master and disciple who changed their lives against the heavens in Hongjun. Cut off all kinds of innate spiritual treasures, deceive and deceive, bully the weak, dominate the mountains, engage in close and distant attacks, and do everything to the extreme. Follow the path of the sage, leaving the sage with no way to go. Looking back, Master Shiji has become a female saint on par with Empress Nyua. And Yun-Yi, always only 1,000,000,000 points stronger than his master. Feilun novel network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 01. People in Kunlun. Hongjun begins his speech. You are listening at novel full.audio. Just as he climbed halfway up the mountain into Kunlun, Taoist Hongjun's preaching ended. What kind of commotion is this? Yun-Yi looked up and watched as escape lights flew out from the top of Kunlun mountain in the sky, scattering towards the 4 seas and 8 wastelands, as if 10,000 horses were galloping past in his heart. 10 days ago, Yun-Yi traveled to the world of floods and wastelands. Just halfway down the Kunlun mountains, he faintly heard a powerful person preaching on the mountain. Isn't this Hongjun preaching the 3 friends of one teaching? Did you encounter such a famous scene just as you traveled through the wilderness? Yun-Yi was overjoyed and quickly ran up the mountain. However, even though he was already in the midst of the great Kunlun mountains, Wang Shan ran to death. 10 days later, Yun-Yi was still dressed in rags and couldn't help but regret it. Because the preaching at the mountaintop had ended, and he was still far away from the mountaintop. He wanted to hear a sermon, but couldn't make it. A great power can fly away from the sky. Some ride on oversized phoenixes, and true dragons soaring into the sky, swaying clear clouds and exuding a strong aura. There are also those who ride on luxurious divine chariots, with thousands of birds pulling carts, presenting an astonishing spectacle. Yun-Yi can only look up at the sky and sigh with joy. I'm so sorry, I actually missed 1 billion. Yun-Yi sighed and lamented that he, a person who had traveled through later generations, had missed the lecture of Hongjun. Do you still have a great chance to become an immortal? Yun-Yi felt guilty and sat down on a blue stone. After 10 days of difficult mountain climbing, he encountered unexpected small dangers, rolled down the mountain in panic, and got lost in the mountains for several days without taking a bite. He could only shiver in the cold wind. Yun-Yi is now hungry, thirsty, and cold. Yun-Yi was so regretful. If he had known he wouldn't have made it, he wouldn't have climbed the mountain. Now that he's okay, he won't be able to get up or down, and people will be starving. No way, if someone moves a tree or dies, they can't listen, then find a thigh to hold them. Yun-Yi quickly looked around and found a 2-person tall banana tree behind him, with a small shrub next to it, on which many purple fruits grew. Yun-Yi quickly ran over and jumped up high, grabbing the longest banana leaf and tearing it off. Pick a few more fruits, bite off the skin, and the rich purple juice flows out. Yun-Yi quickly wrote a big red letter on the banana leaf. Seeking a teacher. Yun-Yi raised the banana leaves high while shaking and shouting loudly. This action, as long as it's not an idiot, can understand what's going on. The 3,000 followers of the Red Dust in Zixiao Palace are all intelligent people who can understand with just a glance. Seeking teachers, seeking teachers. The young man's cultivation is shallow, and he has no chance to listen to the Tao. Therefore, he is seeking guidance from his master. Please have mercy, seniors. With Yun Yi's shout, although the voice was small, the tall people flying in the sky could hear it. Seeking a teacher. Hee, where did the mole ant come from? Such a turbid thing, how could it delude to seek guidance from a master halfway up the path? Among the passing great powers were innate demons and spirits, and even great witches. Their divine abilities are unparalleled, and with just one glance, they can see Yun Yi's indescribable poor qualifications. In their eyes, Yun Yi had no spiritual mechanism, let alone any cultivation. His whole body was like a leaking sieve, with spiritual energy sucked in and all leaked out in the next moment, leaving no trace. This was simply a strange and lifeless body. Moreover, Yun Yi's body is foul-smelling and turbid, with a plethora of impurities, complete with all 5 poisons and no spiritual roots. He has long been blinded by the foul aura of his spiritual roots and mind, making him a stubborn and lifeless creature. Even if he cultivates himself to the heavens and has a bright lotus-like mouth, it is difficult for him to teach such ants to comprehend the Tao. No one is a fool, they wouldn't do things that are difficult to please. Upon hearing these powerful discussions, Yun Yi realized that she was actually a useless cultivator. Well, I came from the era of the end of the Dharma, and it's not surprising that the generation of the end of the Dharma is a waste of cultivation. But Yun Yi doesn't believe that he can't change his destiny against the heavens. After all, there are so many treasures in the world of the wilderness, and getting one is enough to change his destiny against the heavens. Muddy thing, difficult to teach. A phoenix tribe shook their head and headed straight up to the 9th heaven. Fool, I can't teach you anything. Even if your mouth is dry, you probably won't be able to see it. How helpless. The laughter of Kunlun Patriarch echoed through the clouds, and many great powers could hear it. The other great powers were deeply convinced and shook their heads, ignoring Yun Yi. Little friend, hurry up and leave. With all 5 impurities and desires blinding your heart, how can you see the Tao? Be careful not to be caught by the demon tribe and take a bite. Some voices came from the sky, with a hint of sigh and a hint of mockery. All great powers have not stopped. Yun Yi watched as one superpower after another swept past the sky and disappeared, and her heart gradually sank to the bottom of the valley. Okay, in their eyes, I am either an ant or an uneducable filthy fool. I don't want to either. I am a person from the end of the legal era in later generations, a social animal soaked in a large dying vat with material desires for more than 20 years. Naturally, I don't fall into the eyes of these innate divine demons and gods. But why did you become a fool yourself? I am also a person with great opportunities and luck. The fact that I have traveled through time is proof. Yun Yi closed her eyes and saw a gate of the wilderness standing in her mind. This is the reason why I travel by myself. Yun Yi doesn't know if she can still go back to modern times. So far, Yun Yi doesn't know how to respond. But even if I could go back, Yun Yi wouldn't want to. Although the wilderness is dangerous, it is a world full of treasures and miracles. Chaos is beginning to open up, the world is beginning to form, and there are traces of Pangu everywhere, nurturing natural resources and treasures. Once obtained, one can benefit endlessly. The empty mountain is silent. It's over, it's all gone. There are so many great powers in the world, yet no one can be accepted as an apprentice. How despicable and pitiful is this? Yun Yi sat down dejectedly, rested for most of the day, and his depressed mood recovered to some extent. Okay, I can't be your disciple, that's your loss. I'm actually a legitimate potential stock, you have no eyes for it. Chapter 02. Harvesting Heavenly Wool. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yun Yi felt helpless. Seeing that it was getting late, he quickly went down the mountain. It was unknown whether there would be wolves in this wilderness. Ha! This ridiculous kid, why haven't he left yet? A rough and powerful voice came, and Yunyi turned around and saw three great experts coming together. The first child with crane hair and a young face, leaning on a cane, has gossip born at every step of his feet. The middle one, with a middle-aged Chinese character face, is very majestic. He is wearing a white robe and holding a three treasures jade rui. The last one is a young black-haired cultivator, with a chimping sword hanging from his waist, seemingly possessing boundless sword energy. This is Sanqing. Yunyi instantly realized that she had met the future Sanqing sage, the supreme old Ran, the primordial heavenly sovereign, and the head of the Tongtian sect. Yunyi didn't even know that the opportunity had arrived, so he quickly knelt down with a thud. Although a man has gold under his knee, how much money can gold be worth in the wilderness? Worshipping saints as teachers is still valuable. Sanqing couldn't help but feel confused when she saw Yunyi bowing in. Yo ho, you still worship me. Tongtian was overjoyed as he looked up and down at Yunyi and exclaimed, Brother Tu, you see, this creature is not a deity or demon, nor is it a bird or a beast, let alone an insect. What category do you think he belongs to? Laozi and Yuanshi both looked at Yunyi with a pair of eyes, trying to find out his roots. Unfortunately, no matter how they look at it, they can't see why. Originally, the three of them are still quasi-saints, not the saints or the heavenly way. They cannot see through the distant future, let alone understand the origin of Yunyi, because at this time, the human race has not yet been born. So, the existence of Yunyi is actually a loophole in the heavenly way. Of course, the heavenly way is not perfect, and Yunyi doesn't understand. Although the Supreme Master Laozi is curious, he cannot understand and will not delve into the root cause. The Supreme Master's personality is just like his title, he is infatuated. His concern for the Great Road did not arouse any interest in the things around him. Moreover, Yunyi is just a creature with no cultivation, even if this creature is a bit peculiar. But so what, in the vast land, are there still few peculiar creatures? If we all want to find the root cause, it's just asking for trouble. The same goes for Yuanshi. In his eyes, Yunyi is not much better than ants, and he can probably blow him away in one breath. The mystery on Yunyi's body is definitely not a big secret. Immediately, Yuanshi shook his head and his gaze passed over Yunyi, landing on the banana leaves beside him. Hee, older brother and third brother, there's a spiritual root in front that's quite interesting. Why don't we go and take a look? In just one sentence, the Supreme Master Laozi and Tongtian immediately understood what was going on. Three people stepped out and arrived at the banana tree. This banana tree is exactly the one that Yunyi pulled down a large leaf just now. It is 2 people tall and verdant, but in Yunyi's eyes, it is no different from the banana trees of later generations, but it just looks better. But in the eyes of the 3 quasi-saints, this banana tree is amazing. Tongtian was amazed and exclaimed, not bad, not bad. Originally, it was a congenital banana tree that was born from the combination of the essence of Hongmeng wind breath and Lihua. There were only 4 leaves in total, each with its own unique function. Now only the last 3 leaves are left, and we each have one. How about that? Great, this fan belongs to us. Laozi raised his hand and pointed, tearing off a banana leaf, it fell into his hand. The supreme clear chi was stimulated, and the banana leaves were immediately refined. After a few breaths, the banana leaves had already been refined into a fan, of varying sizes, which was very mysterious. If anyone with some knowledge sees this fan, they will surely know that it is the southern old Yang fan of the Taiqing dynasty, which was later used by the Supreme Emperor to fan the Bagua furnace for alchemy. It is very suitable. Yuanshi also picked a banana leaf, and the essence of Yuanshi was refined into an immortal fan. It was the Eastern Shaoyang Yushu fan that Yuqing was born with, which later became one of the treasures in the Zixiao Palace and was not seen by ordinary people. Tongtian shook his head, picked the last banana leaf, held it in his hand, and looked left and right, feeling very dissatisfied. Originally, the banana leaves in Tongtian's hand were the smallest. And the largest banana leaf is not in the hands of the three brothers, but in the hands of Yunyi, a mole ant. Since that's the case, the three quasi-saints still have no intention of killing or looting, because it's too cheap and arrogant like them, disdainful of it. Yunyi rushed up and was shocked to see Sanqing picking leaves and refining fans. Damn it, that ordinary banana tree is actually an innate spiritual root. Yunyi exclaimed when he saw the small banana leaf in Tongtian's dissatisfied hand. Yunyi seemed to have an epiphany and immediately raised the largest banana leaf in his hand, offering it to him. Senior, this young man has shallow moral character and is not worthy of his position. He cannot keep this treasure. If he is willing to offer it, please accept it with a smile. Sanqing was surprised. Especially Tongtian, looking up and down at Yunyi, chuckled and said, "It's a bit interesting, really interesting. You kid, you have some wisdom. Thank you for your approval, senior." Yunyi feels guilty and doesn't deserve it. Yunyi quickly humbly presented the banana leaves in his hands. Yunyi is also a decisive person. As an ant, he has no magical power and cannot protect the innate spiritual object in his hands. Once coveted by others, one will surely die of misfortune. So, Yunyi didn't even think about it and immediately offered flowers and treasures to the Buddha, praying that the three saints held themselves high and would give him some benefits. Sure enough, Tongtian picked up the banana leaf, which was twice as big as the one in his hand. No wonder Tongtian didn't appreciate the smallest one. It was also Yunyi who was aroused and immediately entangled with Tongtian for cause and effect. The clear energy from his hands surged out, and he forcefully refined innate spiritual objects into spiritual treasures. The two fans were refined by him in just a few breaths. Two fans, one big and one small, are quite mysterious. Especially the smallest fan, dark green, small and exquisite, initially shrouded in the innate aura of Northern Oldine. This fan is the Northern Oldine Spirit Treasure Fan, also known as the Oldine Fan. The largest fan is the Western Shaoyin Spirit Treasure Fan from the Upper Qing dynasty. It has the most abundant innate spiritual energy and is also the most solemn, suitable for the killing and killing characteristics of the heavenly sky. Tongtian is also most satisfied with this fan. So, Tongtian put away the Shaoyin fan and threw the Oldine fan to Yunyi, disdaining him and saying, "Here you are. I come from a noble Pangu family, so noble. How could I take advantage of you, let alone owe you cause and effect? Now cause and effect have happened." Chapter 03. Saints Snatching Gourd. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good. Tai Shang Laozi and Yuanshi didn't even glance at Yunyi. They strolled leisurely down the mountain, saying as they walked, "Oh, there's also a gourd vine over there. It's a bit interesting. It's time for our martial brothers to have the treasure again. Go together, go together." Tongtian ignored Yunyi and caught up with Laozi and Yuanshi in one step. The three of them, like a gust of wind, headed towards a green vine on a cliff. Yunyi held the Oldine fan in his hand and was already confused. Good guy. The leader of the Tongtian sect is indeed the leader of the Tongtian sect, and Sanqing is truly the manifestation of Pangu's primordial spirit, with an extraordinary aura pattern. He offered himself a banana leaf and returned a congenital spiritual treasure fan. I made it. Yunyi's mind twitched, and the Oldine fan in his hand was shrouded in mystery. His innate spiritual light faded away and he transformed into an ordinary fan, showing no signs of supernatural power. Yunyi was overjoyed and breathed a great sigh of relief, so he didn't have to worry about being robbed. That's great. Surprisingly, I pulled the wool of the heavenly sect leader once. What did they say just now? There is also a gourd vine ahead. Is it also a congenital spiritual root that cannot be formed? Yunyi was overjoyed, holding an old yin fan in his hand, and ran in the direction of Sanqing to take a look. On the edge of the cliff not far away, a congenital old vine climbed up from the bottom of the 10,000 zhang cliff, lush and green, growing very well. Near the top of the cliff, there grew a purple gourd the size of a fist. Following the gourd vine, every 1,000 zhang, there grows a treasure gourd of different colors. When Yunyi arrived, Laozi and Yuanchi each held a precious gourd in their hands. The gourd in Laozi's hand is purple, while the one in Yuanchi's hand is green. Tongtian took a liking to a green gourd, and as soon as he grabbed it, the green gourd was struck by a sword energy and caught in his hand. Tongtian grabbed the green gourd and looked at it in amazement. Good gourd, there are 2 innate water and fire inside this gourd. If I refine 2 more qilin, it will be even more mysterious. Tongtian is truly a master who loves to refine weapons. Just as he got the gourd and examined its characteristics, he already thought about how to refine it to fully unleash its wonders. Not to mention, in the future, Tongtian will refine the green gourd in his hand into 2 unicorns to form a water and fire gourd. As for Laozi, what he refined was a purple golden gourd, which was used to hold pills, and there was also Yuanchi, so I don't know what he refined. Sanqing got the gourd and was about to hesitate whether to continue with it. Just listen to the sound of a phoenix in the sky. Sanqing looked up and saw the sky shining down. Empress Nyuwa landed on a golden phoenix from the sky, landing in front of Sanqing. 3 Taoist brothers, please. Nyuwa Ji show. At this moment, Nyuwa is dressed in a white neon robe, without any makeup or adornment. She is not wearing any accessories, and her appearance is just her beauty, making her a top-notch beauty in the world. Sanqing Hui Li. Yuanchi smiled and said, Sister Nyuwa has just arrived. There is a congenital spiritual root here that has given birth to 7 precious gourds. We have picked 3 of them, and there is still surplus. Sister Nyuwa happens to share one. Good. Nyuwa thanked and then glanced at the gourd vine. Sure enough, there were still 4 gourds faintly visible on the vine. Feeling the innate spiritual light in the gourd, Nyuwa waved her hand and a golden gourd hung from a 3 foot and 4/4 long vine, taking off into her hands. Great! Nyuwa took a glance and exclaimed in admiration of the gourd. Inside this golden gourd, there was an indestructible golden light of creation, which had infinite magical effects. The most peculiar thing was that it could turn things into demons. By cooperating with her cultivation of the innate creation of the Spirit Light Avenue and using the Heavenly Gang Great method of mediation, she can create the supreme demon type. So, this gourd should belong to her. Yunyi has arrived at the edge of the cliff and dare not approach to disturb. For an ant like him, just take a look at this famous scene. If he comes forward and causes trouble, it means he doesn't know how to move forward or backward. Perhaps he doesn't mind crushing his little ant every minute. It's a congenital spiritual root gourd vine. Yunyi's eyes are very greedy. These 7 precious gourds, each of which is an innate treasure, can be easily refined into an innate spiritual treasure. There are 3 more precious gourds, do you still want to pick them, senior brother? Nyuwa looked at Laozi. Laozi pinched his fingers on his sleeve and sighed, the momentum cannot be exhausted, and the benefits cannot all be enjoyed by us alone. These 3 gourds have nothing to do with us. A burst of laughter fell from the sky, and a red cloud quickly fell, rolling up a fiery red gourd under the cliff. Falling onto the cliff, a red-robed Taoist appeared. This person is the Hongjun Taoist, who later became the first pitiful and wicked person to possess the 99 scattered soul gourd. The Red Cloud Taoist has a deep foundation, with a fiery and dazed personality, and is very heroic. He held a red gourd in his hand and bowed to Sanqing and Nyuwa, saying, "Thank you for your mercy. This gourd should be destined for me." Yunyi saw this scene from a distance and felt mixed emotions. Originally, the great Han Taoist in this red robe is the Red Cloud Taoist. As far as he knows, in the future, Hongjun will be injured by the Eastern Emperor Tai, attacked by the Kunlun Patriarch, and ultimately fall, with the target being a congenital purple aura on his body. The innate Hongmeng purple qi is the foundation of enlightenment, whether it is the Eastern Emperor Tai or the Kunlun Patriarch, they have been coveting it for a long time. As the saying goes, the Red Cloud Taoist was so pitiful that he reluctantly relinquished his holy position upon hearing the teachings, ultimately leading to a fatal surprise attack. So, in a world of chaos, good people do not live long. Tongtian glanced at Hongjun and jokingly said, "Hongjun Dao, you came just in time. You still have 2 gourds, why don't you take them together?" The Red Cloud Taoist immediately shuddered and said, "Don't joke, Tongtian Taoist. Isn't there only 1 gourd left?" Red Cloud saw that there were 2 gourds, 1 indigo and 1 yellow, under the cliff. However, the indigo gourd was a phantom, and the actual object had already been picked by someone. As for who picked it, there's no need to guess. This mountain is the dojo of Hongjun Daozu, and the indigo gourd must have been picked by Hongjun Daoist early in the morning. As for the yellow gourd, it can be picked. Red Cloud was about to take action when a golden crow suddenly descended from the sky and landed on the gourd vine. With 3 legs grabbing it, it was about to snatch away the yellow gourd. "Flat-haired beast, dare to snatch my precious gourd." Red Cloud was furious, grabbing it with a big hand. 1 red sand big hand condensed and slapped the golden crow, firmly grasping the gourd in the red sand big hand. Red sand captures the great divine hand, which is the first divine skill that Red Cloud uses to condense and cultivate with its own destiny red sand river. In fact, Red Cloud cultivates more than 12 divine powers, each of which is unparalleled. His disciples have gradually gathered, and some have begun to respectfully refer to Red Cloud as their ancestor. "Dare to curse me." 2 golden suns suddenly appeared in the sky. Yuni looked up and saw that her whole body was not doing well. "I saw 2 great gods standing in the air, and behind them, 2 suns appeared. On the left is Emperor Jun, the sun god. Behind him, in the sky, there is a Fusang divine tree. Above the tree, there are still a few golden crows flying faintly. The one on the right is Emperor Taichi. In the sun behind him, there seemed to be a chaotic bell hanging, with a dark yellow color, very magical, as if surrounded by a great road, with majestic and boundless power. The invisible pressure pressed down from top to bottom, making Yun-Yi sweat profusely. What a powerful demon emperor. Yun-Yi's face turned pale with sweat. These 2 are great gods born on the sun star. Chapter 04. Tongtian refuses me to learn from teachers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Eastern Emperor Tai is in charge of the Chaos Clock and can suppress the world of Hongmeng, which is very powerful. Emperor Jun is somewhat inferior, but he also manages the innate Lingbao River map and Luo Shu, and is the actual ruler of the Sun Star. 2 emperors claiming to be the demon race, one claiming to be the Western Emperor and the other claiming to be the Eastern Emperor, have equal and noble status. They want to unify the demon race, establish the supreme heaven, and even have ambitions to unify the entire wilderness. As for the mismatch between strength and ambition, it's hard to say. West Emperor, East Emperor, should you give me an explanation for snatching my gourd? The Red Cloud Taoist looked angrily at the 2 demon emperors. Hongjun, you are really ignorant of the times. Several Taoist friends are not as ignorant as you are. These last 2 gourds clearly belong to us. Do you dare to steal them? Emperor Jun said coldly. Ha ha ha. The Red Cloud Taoist laughed heartily, while others were afraid of the 2 emperors of the demon clan. He was not afraid. Red Cloud, who had acquired the innate purple aura, was full of confidence and mocked, "Your Majesty, I didn't expect you to have such poor eyesight before. You wanted 2 gourds. It's ridiculous, there's only 1 gourd now, and you can't even see through it." Emperor Jun and Tai Yi's face immediately turned ugly. Emperor Jun raised his hand and grabbed it, causing the indigo gourd to shatter. It turned out to be just a wisp of spiritual energy condensed into an empty form, not a physical entity. With the intelligence of Emperor Jun and Tai Yi, why don't you understand what's going on? This is clearly because the owner of this place, Mr. Hongjun, picked the gourd first, so there is only one yellow gourd left without a owner. Arrogant like Emperor Jun and Tai Yi, they naturally refuse to admit that they have taken a wrong look. Dongwang Tai Yi chuckled coldly and said, "Hongyun, don't you have a gourd in your hand? If I snatch it from you, there will be only two. The identity of the demon clan, the West Emperor, and Donghuang is so noble. If I snatch it from you, I will give you face." Yun-Yi saw a scene and was completely suppressed by the domineering side leaks of the two supreme demon clans. You are indeed domineering. Undoubtedly, they are Emperor Jun and Emperor Tai Yi. Every word and action is full of the supreme domineering power. In today's world, the early calamity of the Dragon and Han dynasties has long passed away, and the demon and witch tribes dominate the world, with a great tendency to control the world. Emperor Jun and Eastern Emperor Tai Yi have a faint aura of calling on the demon tribes of the world. If you have the ability, come and grab it. Hongyun won't get used to the two of them. With his quasi-holy cultivation, not everyone can snatch things from him. And if the sage doesn't emerge, who can defeat him? Invert yin and yang. With a thunderous roar from the red clouds, the day turned dark and the night turned upside down, the five elements were in chaos, and the universe was reversed. Red Cloud Taoist has used his ability as a quasi-saint to suppress the bottom of the box. Tiangang Avenue Method. Inverting yin and yang. There are a total of 36, Tiangang Avenue methods. This is the 36 great ways summarized by Taoist Hongjun based on the creation of jade plates, which have incredible power. 3, not all, 6, and 6 are infinite. Anyone who can learn relevant magical powers and string them together to form a closed chain loop, and obtain this path, then they are the master of a certain avenue. That outsider cannot exterminate him. The 36 heavenly gang passed down by Hongjun has exceeded the realm of immortality and entered the level of the great Tao. As soon as Hongyun made a move, he knew if there was one. Emperor Jun and Eastern Emperor Tai were caught off guard in an instant. The two of them released the river map, Luo Shu, and Chaos Clock, which stabilized their figures. In the blink of an eye, the two demon emperors saw thousands of red clouds around them, each with a cultivation level of Yazhunsheng, eyeing them with envy. Is this the incarnation of 10 million that has been transformed from fetal transformation and transformation? Emperor Jun and Eastern Emperor Tai Yi were shocked. They had heard of Hongjun's preaching and had heard of some of the great ways and secret techniques he had mentioned. I never expected that Red Cloud had such a high talent and had already learned many of Hongjun's secret techniques. Boom boom. The three great powers transformed into three escape lights and rushed into the sky, fighting fiercely over the Kunlun mountains. The sky is unpredictable, day and night are upside down, the universe is upside down, and the five elements are chaotic. Yun-Yi only feels dizzy, and his body's qi and blood boil. He opens his mouth and begins to vomit, feeling dizzy. This was only affected by the aftershocks, and Yun-Yi was shocked. If he gets involved in the battle between the quasi-saint and the two demon emperors, he will definitely be crushed to ashes every minute. In the sky above Kunlun, the earth's water, fire, and wind swelled, thunder roared, and light shone through the sky and earth, as if the end of the world. Sanqing and Nyuhua both looked up and watched intently, occasionally commenting. Yun-Yi also looked up, but felt completely lonely. He couldn't see any trace of Hongyun and the two demon emperors at all, only three faint trajectories spread throughout the entire sky. So the Red Cloud Ancestor is so powerful. Yun-Yi was stunned. Red Cloud Ancestor was not a soft persimmon, no wonder Taoist Hongjun gave him the innate Hongmeng purple qi. With the strength of Hongjun, if a sage does not emerge, who can do anything to defeat him? Yunyi suddenly became extremely envious, secretly swearing in her heart that since she had experienced it once, she would cultivate into an immortal no matter what, and mix up like a human. Suddenly, heaven and earth are clear and bright. In the sky, 3 escape lights flew towards the northern earth, and wherever they passed, the void shattered. Surprisingly left. Yunyi was once again stunned, never expecting that the 3 great gods had sailed north from Kunlun mountain. Hongjun couldn't have been injured by 2 demon emperors this time, and then secretly attacked and fallen by Kunpeng patriarch, right? Yunyi murmured. Suddenly, Laozi, Yuanshi, and Tongtian turned their heads and their gaze fell on Yunyi. It was obvious that they had heard Yunyi's murmurs. Laozi and Yuanshi remained silent, only taking a curious glance before ignoring Yunyi. Yuanshi thought to himself that if there were strange ants occasionally, they were also ants and not worth their attention. On the contrary, Tongtian, among the 3, has the youngest appearance, a stronger curiosity, and a greater love for exploring and doing meaningless things. It's a bit interesting. Tongtian suddenly approached Yunyi and looked up and down at him. At this moment, Yunyi finally saw the appearance of Tongtian clearly. At this moment, Tongtian had long black hair, a young face, and a green ping sword hanging from his waist, vividly portraying a chivalrous figure. Kid, how did you know that Red Cloud Taoist friends would have difficulty? Tongtian stared at Yunyi. Being stared at by Xuanchen, Yunyi felt as if he had been electrocuted and his soul couldn't help but panic. He quickly explained, if I say I guessed, do you believe me, senior? Haha. Tongtian laughed loudly and said, you're such a slippery kid. I don't believe a word of your words, but I'm not curious how you know. You're also an outlier, so I'll give you some guidance. Aren't you trying to learn from your master and seek enlightenment? Upon hearing this, Yunyi was overjoyed and immediately bowed. Don't worship me. Tongtian remained unmoved, and a force lifted Yunyi up. Even with all her strength, Yunyi couldn't resist. Yunyi felt as if 10,000 horses had galloped past in his heart. Chapter 05. Master Shiji. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You don't have the qualification to worship me as your teacher yet. You have loopholes all over your body and can't store spiritual energy. You are even more stubborn than a stubborn stone. I see, you only deserve to worship a stubborn stone as your teacher now. Worshipping stubborn stones as teachers. Yunyi was taken aback, a bit incredulous. What does this mean? Can stubborn stones teach oneself how to cultivate immortality and enter the Tao? Look, isn't your master there? Tongtian raised his hand and pointed, and Yunyi turned his head to see a female fairy jumping up from somewhere on a blue cliff stone. The female fairy looked like she had been in her 20s, with a hint of greenness on her face. She was dressed in a green neon dress and wore a tall Gucci crown on her head. A long green silk ribbon hung from the crown and fell all the way to her back. There was also an ancient sword hanging from the waist of the female fairy, looking like a newly emerged female sword fairy who had not yet delved into the world. That girl, you come. Tongtian waved to the fairy. The fairy looked over and trembled all over, then became ecstatic. With a single step, she had transformed into a clear breeze and crossed 100 yards. She was as vast as Feng Su, riding the wind, floating as if she had been separated from the world, and transformed into an immortal. I'll go. Yunyi was slightly confused. This is a fairy, a female fairy. No mistake, Yunyi saw the fairy step out and immediately approached her, her charm undoubtedly being that of a fairy. Especially on her body, there was a wisp of ethereal aura that seemed to be non-existent. The ethereal aura was a deep blue color, very rich, even Yunyi's naked eye could see it. Do you know who I am? Said Tongtian. I know, teacher. The fairy immediately bowed respectfully. It seems that you have heard me preach before. When I was walking at the foot of Kunlun mountains, I stayed in 30.6 places, preaching for 1 or 2 days in each place, totaling 1263 sermons. Do you think you have heard me preach? The teacher is very observant. The fairy nodded immediately. Haha, that's good. There's something I need you to take care of, okay? Tongtian stroked his long beard with a graceful demeanor. Teacher, please give orders, I will never refuse to die. The female fairy immediately said. Good. Tongtian pointed to Yunyi and said, have you seen this kid? He's just as stubborn as you were when you first started. From today on, he will be your disciple. Teach him well for me. If he can enter the Tao, it is his creation. If he cannot enter the Tao, he will turn into a handful of dust in 100 years, and nothing will be raised. Obey the teacher's decree. The fairy immediately received the decree. Yunyi was stunned and thought to himself that he had fallen into a trap. He didn't accept himself as his disciple all day long, but pointed to a female fairy who accepted him. I really don't have the qualifications to become a disciple of a sage, even if I have traveled through later generations. Originally, not all travelers can enter the Sanqing Dharma Just, who is this fairy? According to Tongtian's tone, is this female immortal also a disciple of the Zixiao sect? Do you want to agree or not agree? Does not agreeing belong to toasting, not eating, and not being punished? Do you have the right to refuse as a mere ant? Well, at least it's a fairy. As a useless person with no spiritual energy, being able to join the sect of a genuine fairy would be like holding on to your thigh. This wave is not a loss. If a sage speaks with gold and jade, and upholds the principles of heaven and earth, and designates a famous teacher, even if the sky falls, it cannot be changed. Yunyi didn't think too much either. He hugged his thighs tightly and indirectly entered the wall of the Zixiao sect before speaking. Immediately, Yunyi decisively bowed and said, Disciple Yunyi, I have seen Master before. I wish Master blessings like the East Sea and a longer life than the South Mountain. The fairy was stunned. She looked at Yunyi a few times, frowned, and hesitated. Teacher, what is this creature? Why is it so turbid? In the eyes of the female fairy, Yunyi's flesh and blood were murky, his 3 souls and 7 souls were also murky, and even his spiritual roots were as murky as a dye shop. Thinking about the depletion of spiritual energy in later generations, the rampant materialism, chemical toxins, and the aura of the mortal world have long made people's bodies dirty and unbearable, and Yunyi's body is no exception. No wonder the cultivators in the wilderness were very disdainful when they saw Yunyi, and surprisingly unanimously looked down upon him. Tongtian shook his head and said, I don't know from which corner he jumped out of an anomaly. Anyway, you can take it with you. Yes. The fairy nodded. Tongtian patted Yunyi on the back and scolded him, stubborn and ineffective, did you have shu xiu? Without shu xiu, how can you seek guidance from a master? There is no sincerity at all. Take out the banana fan I gave you and treat it as a disciple's shu xiu. Yunyi was confused. The old Yin fan is an innate spiritual treasure, how can it be given away as a bundle repair? Just as Yunyi was in a daze, Tongtian had already grabbed the old Yin fan and stuffed it into the hands of the female fairy. Done, shu xiu has also been handed in, kowtowed and kowtowed. The title of master and apprentice has been established, and heaven and earth serve as evidence. That's nothing for me. Tongtian laughed heartily, and the person had turned into a hidden light, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Yunyi turned his head to search, where is there any trace of Sanqing? Nima. Yunyi almost jumped with anger. What did the leader of the Tang Tongtian sect do just now? He actually generously gave away his innate spiritual treasure with the generosity of others. Although that person is the cheap master I just worshipped. But, is that too bad? Farewell to the teacher. The female fairy held the old Yin fan and bowed towards the direction of disappearing from the sky. Then, she rubbed the old fan and couldn't put it down. "Master, can I return this fan to my disciple?" Yun hesitated for a moment. "This is for being a teacher." The fairy refused decisively. "This is Shuxiao. Shuxiao who has become a teacher will not be refunded." Yun wants to cry without tears. He's just an ordinary person, he can't beat a fairy. Although I don't know what kind of fairy the fairy in front of me is. The 5 immortals of heaven, earth, man, God, and ghost, no matter what kind of immortal they are 100% incapable of doing it themselves. "Okay, Shuxiao. I guess we can't come back for now." Fortunately, having become an immortal master can be considered as entering the gate wall of Zixiao. This Zixiao will be very prosperous in the future, known as the coming of immortals. Okay, it doesn't seem like a blood loss. Just as Yun was using Q's spirit to comfort himself, a mysterious sound of the Tao suddenly came to his mind. The host's successful apprenticeship inspires the blessings of the Hanmeng Avenue, and gains the ability to overcome the heavens once, lasting for 6 hours each time. It will be automatically used in special circumstances. The host presents an innate spiritual treasure, the old fan, to inspire the blessings of Hanmeng Avenue and receive double returns. Yun suddenly found that there were 2 identical old fans in his god court. "I'll wipe it." Yun was completely confused. 2 old fans, one of the innate spiritual treasures, would it be good to offer one to Chief Master Shiji, and return 2 to Dao? What kind of sleazy operation is this? It can't be fake, can it? Can we say that the innate spiritual treasure has become a cabbage and can be delivered freely? 2 old fans, what's the concept? Plus the one in the master's hand, that's 3. I'll go and make a fortune. Reward for apprenticeship, as well as for offering treasures. Is this golden finger of Hanmeng Avenue blessing so domineering? But it seems that the conditions triggered by the golden finger are all related to the cheap master in front of us. What is the origin of this master? Is it a hidden boss, or is it from the chaos Xianhuang outside the sky? Yun saw that the female fairy couldn't put down her love for the old fan, so she leaned forward and began to inquire about the other person's background. "May I ask your master's name? In which immortal mountain and blessed place do you practice?" The fairy in front of Yun, who is definitely a beautiful woman, comes from a noble background. Otherwise, how could she also come to our Kunlun mountains to listen to the teachings? "My name is Shiji," said the fairy lightly. "Shiji." Yun was electrocuted. How could it be Shiji? How could it be Shiji? Isn't Shiji the most unjust seed of the deity, Shiji Empress? Is it the cannon fodder that opened the curtain of the consecration ceremony with the first person to receive boxed food? I'll go. Yun felt the thunder rolling in the sky, as if there were 10,000 galloping horses on his head, kicking and trampling. Damn it, his master was actually Lady Shiji, it's so pitiful. Teacher has already worshipped, can we still make changes? Chapter 06. Hard Stone Body Refining, Practicing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Yun was regretful, the thought of having already become a disciple and the fact that this relationship between master and disciple was predetermined by heaven made him unable to regret it unless he had the support of Hongjun. Okay, let's take a look first before we talk. Yun could only inwardly slander while patiently continuing to understand the situation of his cheap master. Master, what realm are you in now? Is it a celestial being? If it's a golden immortal, that would be even better, but it's okay. It's not easy to cultivate a golden immortal, being a heavenly immortal would be good. The heavenly immortal can already live the same life as the heavenly immortal. Shiji held the old fan in his hand, with a strange expression on his face. After hesitating for a moment, 3 words popped out. I am a human immortal. Human immortality. What does it mean? Is there a realm of human immortality in the vast and boundless realm of the world, surrounded by clouds and mist? Yunyi pondered deeply and finally understood what a human immortal was. Isn't the so-called human immortal the realm that has just undergone the transformation of thunder and tribulation into human beings? According to Yunyi's understanding, the paths of cultivation in the wilderness are nothing but a few. Mortal realm, entering the Tao, practicing Qi realm, building foundations, magical realm, human immortal, earth immortal, heavenly immortal, true immortal, mysterious immortal, golden immortal, Tai golden immortal, Dalao golden immortal, quasi-saint. Saint. The realm of human immortals is not high. But at least it's related to immortality. Okay, as a useless cultivator with no magical power, it is already the decree of the heavenly sect leader to worship an immortal master. It is time to burn high incense. Without apprenticeship, it is estimated that the golden finger cannot be stimulated. Without golden fingers, how can there be a future? Although I have the golden finger now, the matter of cultivation has not yet been settled. Yunyi said, Master, since I have already become a disciple, can Master teach me the methods of cultivation? Shiji said, bring your hand over, I'll check your pulse. Yunyi reached out his hand. Shiji immediately grabbed Yunyi's wrist. A layer of green and tenacious stone essence infused into Yunyi's wrist, and along the wrist, it entered Yunyi's internal organs and then spread to his head and limbs. Boom! Yunyi felt his belly button explode 3 inches below, forming a hazy and turbid space. However, the stubborn stone essence seemed to have no dependence on anything. It spun around in the elixir field and naturally leaked out, emitting through the 7 orifices and ubiquitous pores along its 4 limbs and bones. Shiji frowned and said, Apprentice, your physical condition is indeed worse than when I first practiced. You can't retain any spiritual energy. What should I do? Is there a way for me to gather spiritual energy? Yunyi became anxious and couldn't make use of spiritual energy. Isn't he really useless? Others may not be able to do it, but I am the exception. I have a unique skill of refining my body with stubborn stones, which is unique to me from birth. Unlike any fairy art, it cannot rely on spiritual energy for cultivation, but can also transform your Civ constitution into a stubborn stone body, filling various gaps in your body and helping you concentrate your magic. Yunyi was overjoyed and quickly requested, Master, please be merciful and impart your divine powers. Okay, find a stone. Shiji said. Although Yunyi was puzzled, he still looked around. Isn't it just looking for a piece of jade? That's it. Yunyi arrived at the edge of the cliff and grabbed a reddish-golden pebble from under the gourd vine. The size of a pebble fist, with a strange texture on its surface, looks like the feather texture of some kind of bird. Shiji didn't take Joe either. He grabbed the pebbles and placed them in his palm. The spirit of the stubborn stone rose, and the pebbles began to deform, forming a small human-like figure, sitting upright with 5 hearts facing the sky. And the stone little man has a nose and eyes, a bit like Yunyi. Shiji was surprised and said, I didn't expect this to be a 9 heavenly land crystal stone stained with phoenix blood, which has also infected the innate supernatural of the gourd vine. It would be perfect for you to cultivate divine powers. After speaking, Shiji slapped the pebbles and drove them into Yunyi's elixir field. Yunyi was surprised because he felt a jade and stone figure sitting in his dantian. Just like a practitioner condensing a golden pill. For a moment, the earth's energy rushed in from the outside of Yunyi's body, flowing throughout his body, and then pouring into the elixir field, being absorbed by the jade and stone figures. This time, Yunyi's body can finally gather spiritual energy instead of completely losing it like a sieve. A profound insight surged into Yunyi's mind, and a divine skill called hard stone refining body emerged. What a divine power! Yunyi was about to applaud the case. The power of refining body with stubborn stones has already been activated on Yunyi, and it is constantly growing and extending, without stopping for a moment. No need for Yunyi to breathe, no need for Yunyi to work hard, the jade figurine will automatically absorb the spiritual energy from heaven and earth. Divine powers are divine powers, as if they are innate and do not require cultivation to achieve. This is not Yunyi practicing, but the jade and stone minion helping Yunyi practice. Having a master is different, as it instantly solved Yunyi's problem of being unable to cultivate like a stubborn stone. This is simply a magical technique tailored for Yunyi. Shiji stared at Yunyi and was also surprised to find that the jade figurine did not reject him. Not bad, this divine skill is enough to repair various deficiencies in your body, help you in the early stages of cultivation, overcome thunder tribulations, transform yourself, and cultivate into a tenacious stone path. Master, what is the stubborn stone Taoist body? Yunyi didn't quite understand. A relatively shallow human fairyland without leakage Dao body, like me, can freely absorb the energy of the earth, especially the essence of various stones. Shiji explained. Yunyi is numb. Good guy, this stubborn stone road may not sound good, but it is a first-class good physique. Yunyi was overjoyed and finally had a way to cultivate. With his golden finger, was this the rhythm he wanted to take off? Chapter 07. Scratching. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Let's go down the mountain. Shiji glanced at Yunyi. She didn't have much opinion about him now, she was more curious. Why would a great immortal like Tongtian point out useless firewood like Yunyi as his disciple? Purely for entertainment. This thought was immediately extinguished by Shiji. It wouldn't be like this. A powerful immortal like Tongtian, every move has profound meaning. How could he entertain a small person like himself for no reason? Is it true that this cheap disciple of mine is really an anomaly? Anyway, Shiji didn't notice it, but this doesn't prevent him from fully accepting the decree of Tongtian and following Tongtian's arrangements. Shiji paused for a moment, and the person was already like a refreshing breeze, heading down the mountain. Suddenly, Shiji stopped and realized that Yunyi was still a mortal, unable to escape the Dharma at all, and couldn't walk fast. Yunyi is now embarrassed, he feels like a burden. Shiji was about to use his magic to wrap around Yunyi and take off with Yunyi. Yunyi stopped working and quickly said, Master, I have been wanting this gourd vine for a long time. Can I take it with me? Shiji was stunned for a moment and said in surprise, What do you want this gourd vine to do? Isn't the precious gourd on top already picked? Yunyi shook her head and said, This gourd vine is also one of the innate spiritual roots. Who knows if it will have any other wonderful uses? Yunyi certainly knew that the gourd had been picked. But besides gourds, vines are also innate spiritual roots. Who knows if they will grow new gourds in the future? Even if it doesn't grow, leaves and branches still contain innate spiritual energy, right? These are all rare treasures in the world. There are many treasures on the desolate land now, but they will definitely disappear in the future. Everything we can encounter now should be scraped 3 feet, leaving no space to search. Otherwise, we will definitely regret our intestines in the future. I see that the soil where this gourd vine grows seems to be very extraordinary, and we can dig it up along with it. Originally, Yunyi was interested in the soil where gourd vines grow, and it is highly likely that it is also innate soil. Maybe it's just a matter of 9 days of rest. In fact, after the founding of Pangu, there were still many 9 heavens of mutual benefit between heaven and earth, including floods and wastelands in various regions, especially in areas such as Kunlun Mountain and Buzhou Mountain. Until the end of the Lich War, most of the spiritual creatures in heaven and earth had accumulated over a long period of time and integrated into the world, making it difficult to find them again. Now it is still the period of preaching by the Taoist ancestors of the primordial era, and there are still many spiritual objects in heaven and earth. If we can prepare for the rain and store some, we will not regret not having foresight in the future. Shiji showed a strange expression and after some thought, he nodded in agreement. Okay, it's not difficult. Shiji picked up a cloud-white silk handkerchief from his sleeve, poured in magic, and offered it as a sacrifice. Shilpa emitted a spiritual light and became very big. In one fell swoop, she uprooted the gourd vines lying on the cliff, along with the soil at the bottom of the cliff, as well as the black yellow stone and various crystal jade, all in one pot. Yunyi was overjoyed and thought to himself that Shiji already had a personal Lingbao Bagua Yunguang Pa. Just looking at its appearance, this Xiupa is still very beginner. It has not been refined into the treasure of Canli Jindu, nor does it have a comprehensive treasure, let alone a yellow scarf warrior, and its magical effects are lacking. It seems that this Xiupa will need to be continuously refined and improved in the future in order to become more and more powerful. Xiupa seems to form its own space and can also package and receive items. The gourd vine was quickly collected. Yunyi was overjoyed and said, "Master, this Xiupa is even more powerful than a fan." Shiji shook his head and said, "This is my cloud light pagoda. Although it's good, it definitely can't compare to your fan. This fan is an innate spiritual treasure, but my cloud light pagoda is not. At most, it's just an acquired spiritual treasure, but it integrates offense and defense, and it's easy to collect and store items. Why don't we also harvest the banana trees over there?" Yunyi took advantage of the heat and explained the situation of the banana trees. Banana tree. But the banana tree that refined this fan. Shiji glanced at Old Yin Fan and was somewhat surprised. That's right, that's also a congenital spiritual root. That line, although I don't know what its purpose is, it's always innate spiritual roots. Shiji doesn't mind the trouble. As for innate spiritual roots, rare things, as Yunyi said, should be collected first before discussing whether they are useful. The two of them arrived in front of the banana tree. The once lush banana tree now only had a bare trunk. Shiji frowned and shook. It seems like it's of no use anymore, even banana leaves are gone. Yunyi wouldn't judge things by their appearance and advised, "Master, it's better to keep it. Perhaps it's still useful. I heard from a few immortals just now that this banana tree is an innate spiritual object produced by combining the essence of Hongmeng wind breath and Lihua. Although it has no leaves, it still has a trunk. If it can be used to refine tools, perhaps it can be used to make magic treasures. I don't know how to practice." Shiji shook his head. "Not now, maybe in the future we will. We should take a long-term view. When we can refine our weapons, we won't have any geniuses or treasures. Don't we regret it?" Shiji was also right when he thought about it. As the banana tree was about to be collected, it was also uprooted and the soil from the roots was also packed and taken away. Yunyi discovered that the soil where the banana tree took root was different from other soils, and there were also many strange spirit stones mixed in. When the banana trees were also harvested, Yunyi suggested, "Master, are you also here to listen to Hongjun Daozu's preaching? Have you recorded it?" Shiji sighed and shook his head, "I came late. I didn't hear the teachings of the Taoist ancestor. Moreover, with my current path, even if I listen to them, I don't think I will gain much. I heard that those who came to listen to the teachings are all of extremely high-level abilities, and their gains are only great." Yunyi nodded, as if that's the truth. However, this does not prevent Yunyi from going to the mountaintop to take a look at the so-called Zixiao Palace. If you haven't even seen it, wouldn't it be a waste of time? It is said that the purple sky palace of the Taoist ancestor is very unique, and perhaps it can even catch the autumn wind. "Master, can we go up the mountain and have a look?" suggested Yunyi. Chapter 08. In front of Zixiao Palace. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. What are you looking at? Shiji was surprised by Yunyi's novelty, and she never thought about going to see it. Yunyi was afraid that Shiji wouldn't agree, so he immediately spread his 3-inch tongue and began lobbying, "Master, haven't you heard such a sentence? If you don't go to Zixiao, you're not a hero. I heard that this Zixiao Palace is the place where the Taoist preaches, and in the future it will be the Xianmen ancestral court. Think about it, most of the people who can come to listen to the Tao are the great masters of the wilderness, known as the 3,000 red dust guests. If we have also been there, we will have the capital to boast a little in the future, so as not to be underestimated by others, right? Shiji was shocked. Just think about it. Okay, why haven't I thought about such a thing myself? I really don't know how my disciple could have these ideas of comparison and vanity. The Taoist ancestor is still up there. Since we have come on this trip, we must pay homage with reverence, right? If we just leave like this, will we be disrespectful? Yunyi began to deceive him to the extreme. If you guessed correctly, in a while, the Taoist ancestor and his elders may merge with the Tao with their own bodies. How could they have the chance to see each other then? How do you know about the unity of body and mind? Shiji was surprised. What can Yunyi say? He could only talk nonsense. I also heard what the three immortals said just now. Shiji had no doubts at all, but she also had the intention of going to the Zixiao Palace to pay her respects. Whether or not she could see the Taoist ancestor, she said, was mainly because she also wanted to see the place where the Taoist ancestor preached. It was always a thought, and if she thought about it together, she had to go and see it. Without looking at her thoughts, it would be difficult to understand. Let's hurry up, your pace is too slow, I'll take you flying. Shiji offered the cloud-like pagoda as a sacrifice, rolled up the two and turned them into a stream of light, then quickly fled towards the top of Kunlun mountain. The Kunlun mountains in the desolate world are super large. Although located halfway up the mountain, if you want to reach the summit, you won't be able to get there in a few days. Sure enough, after several rounds of sunrise and sunset, the two finally reached the top of the mountain. On the top of the mountain, green trees cover it, and the fairy mist curls up, creating a scene of an immortal family. A palace stands tall, the gate is tightly closed, and no one is seen. In front of the palace, there are railings, bluestones, lawns, and flowers, among others. A few cattails were placed casually in front of the palace gate. Yunyi looked at it and felt refreshed. The innermost cattail must have been seated by Emperor Daozu Hongjun. The purple grass cattail is imbued with the qi of the great Tao and has been refined by Emperor Daozu. It is hard to say if it possesses mysterious blessings. There are 6 cattails outside. No, that's the 6 saints. The first 3 must have been seated by Sanqing. The fourth one, no need to guess, was seated by An Yuhua. The last 2 are the ones that were introduced and mentioned. At first, those 2 futuan should have been seated by Kunpeng ancestor and Hongjun. However, with the introduction and permission to cry, and the use of words to squeeze, Kunpeng and Hongjun were morally kidnapped and had to give up their seats. So much so that Kunpeng even hated Hongjun, which led to the fate of Hongjun falling later. This is a major event of the fall of the quasi-holy peak figure in the world of famine. Apart from these few buns, there are also some other things in other places, such as other buns, mats, animal skins, or feathers, etc. Those things were all sat down and cushioned by 3,000 hearers from the mortal world. Many things, they surprisingly didn't take them away, so they left a lot of garbage on the ground. For Dacheng, it's garbage, but for Yunyi, it's treasure. So, Yunyi ran up at once, first grabbing the Putuan of Dao Zhu Hongjun, and then the 6 holy thrones Putuan. Shiji was puzzled when he saw Yunyi's hungry and thirsty appearance and said, "Apprentice, what are you doing here? Aren't you just a few cattails? What are you picking them up for?" Yunyi grabbed 6 cattails, but when he grabbed the others, he felt like his hands were not enough. "Master, you don't know that these futuan were all sat by saints or quasi-saints. Although they don't want them anymore, they still have commemorative significance. When I bring them to sit quietly in the mountain gate in the future, it will also benefit from the luck of saints." Yunyi smiled. Shiji Dale said, "What nonsense. Where did you come up with such strange ideas? Can the luck of a sage make you succeed? It's purely a matter of luck, no need to force it." Yunyi shook her head and carefully picked up a few melon seeds next to the 2 red cattails behind her. "Wow, there are 3 melon seeds in total, and they are actually golden, with a faint scent of the sun's true fire. After distinguishing, Yun-Yi discovered that it was the seed of a sunflower. If you guessed correctly, this red futon should belong to Emperor Jun of the Sun God and Emperor Tai of the East. Yun-Yi held 3 golden melon seeds in his hand and felt the true fire of the sun contained in them, making him dizzy. What a good thing. Yun-Yi carefully took care of the golden melon seeds, fearing that they might fall off. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first batch of sunflower seeds in the world, and sunflowers are also one of the innate spiritual plants. It is estimated that only powerful people like Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun would use such melon seeds to kowtow. 3 melon seeds fell down. These melon seeds, not roasted, are raw but very fragrant. Yun-Yi can feel that melon seeds have the same vitality and vigor as other seeds, and they can be planted and sprouted. The thought of growing congenital sunflowers, harvesting congenital melon seeds, and using them as snacks made Yun-Yi extremely excited. Is there any more luxurious snack than this? Yun-Yi thought of ginseng fruit and flat peach for a moment. Okay, those who didn't have the chance to eat them themselves, but were born with melon seeds, did they have this taste? Shiji suddenly raised his hand and grabbed 3 golden melon seeds. Master, don't move. Yun-Yi's face turned pale with fear. Shiji looked at the melon seeds in his hand and said, "What is this thing and what is its use?" Yun-Yi quickly said, "These are the seeds of sunflowers, and they are also the first batch of innate spiritual plants in the world. If these 3 seeds are planted well, they can grow a large area of sunflowers and harvest countless melon seeds." "What are you doing with melon seeds?" Shiji was puzzled. "Of course it's for eating, and it's very delicious." Yun-Yi nervously said, "Master, can you give the melon seeds to the disciples? After the disciples cultivate the sunflowers, you can give them to Master to taste. We, the immortals, have already stopped eating human grains. You can eat these melon seeds yourself." Shiji had no idea what sunflowers and melon seeds were, and he disdainfully threw the seeds into Yun-Yi's hands. Yun-Yi breathed a sigh of relief. Shiji dug out his sleeve and threw a sachet over. "Here you are. It seems like you don't have a pocket on your body, how can you hold things? What is this?" Yun-Yi looked at the sachet and instinctively felt a little disgusted, because it was for women, too delicate, and also somewhat fragrant. "This is also a magic weapon, with a small space inside for storage." Shiji waved his hand. Yun-Yi was overjoyed. "Good guy, it turned out to be a storage bag." Yun-Yi quickly thanked and opened the sachet to look inside. Sure enough, there was a space of several thousand cubic meters inside, with the congenital banana tree, gourd vine, as well as some soil and spiritual stones inside. Chapter 09. Red Gourd Smashing the Door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yun-Yi was in a good mood and quickly put the golden melon seeds in her hand into the sachet. The seeds of congenital sunflowers contain the essence of the sun. Although they are not comparable to flat peaches and ginseng fruits, they also have their own unique functions. In Yun-Yi's view, these innate spiritual species are far more valuable than some innate spiritual treasures. Seeds can sprout, grow, bear fruit, and circulate endlessly, indicating that this is an endless wealth that can be harvested one after another, never ending. Yun-Yi has a sachet space, and immediately sees everything on the ground and fills it with sachets. Yun-Yi even found a strange evil phoenix feather, fairy spirit broken jade, a half-bitten immortal jujube and apricot, and so on. To Yun-Yi's excitement, he also found several bamboo slips on the ground, which were engraved with countless chaotic thoughts, texts, insights, and so on using supreme magic. Isn't this just a record or scrap made by a certain person in the mortal world while listening to the teachings? Perhaps it's because they feel unsatisfied, their records and insights are not satisfactory, so they casually discard them. Now, it was actually picked up by Yun-Yi. It's really cheap. Yun-Yi. "Hey, is there a jade bottle here?" Yun-Yi picked up a jade bottle without a cap. Looking inside, it was half a mouthful of 9 heavens sweet dew. At the bottom of the bottle, there was still a glass bead emitting rich spiritual energy. I'll go, I'm developed, and I don't know which mortal guest drank the leftover. Yuni quickly put away the jade bottle and will study it carefully when he has time. In short, 3,000 red dust guests listened to the teachings of Hongjun Daozu in front of Zixiao Palace for a long time, and it was inevitable that some red dust guests would eat, drink, and use it. Speaking of food, the mortal guests no longer have to eat. What to eat? Eating fruits, snacks, drinking fairy dew water. Sometimes just to satisfy the sudden appetite. Each of them is a great talent, and the cost of finding something on their own or offering it to someone below is definitely a good thing. Just a little bit left out is enough for Yun-Yi to be pleasantly surprised. At this moment, Yun-Yi is like waking up from a dream with a smile. Cleaning the Zixiao Palace is an absolute lucrative labor, and he can do this kind of work for 10,000 years. Shiji is puzzled. Her face showed a strange expression. No matter how much she pondered, she couldn't understand Yun-Yi's tireless foolish behavior at this moment. Isn't it just something discarded by others? As for it, Yun-Yi wouldn't mock Shiji for not understanding anything. In fact, Shiji really doesn't understand anything. Yun-Yi knows that Shiji has only recently transformed into a human, and he is probably still a silly and sweet person. He has never seen much worldly wisdom, nor much knowledge, let alone some rare genius treasures. If placed in later generations, it will be even more precious and rare, even extinct. In no time, Yun-Yi had already scraped 3 feet off the ground, even searching for some strange and beautiful flowers, shrubs, exotic grasses, soil, and stones in front of the Zixiao Palace. Shiji ignored Yun-Yi, she just came to the gate of Zixiao Palace. At this moment, the gate of Zixiao Palace is tightly closed and there is no one around. Shiji could only stare blankly, thinking to himself that he had indeed arrived late. The Taoist priest had already dispersed, and there was no one left among the 3,000 red dust guests. Even Daozu doesn't know where he went. Apprentice, where did you say Zhu went? Shiji regained his senses for a while. Yun-Yi came to his side and said, Master, I guess Daozu either closed the door or wandered around. Look, the door is closed, so it's clear that he hasn't seen any guests. Yun-Yi looked left and right, but did not see any servants. For example, in the legend, there are 2 little Taoist children, Haotian and Yao Qi, who serve the Hongjun Taoist. Even Yun-Yi didn't know if Hongjun's attendant boys were these 2. Okay, he missed the Taoist preaching, missed 1 billion. So now, are we leaving or not? Shiji hesitated. Yun-Yi is not willing to leave now. He still wants to go into the Zixiao Palace to pay his respects to Daozu. If he hasn't seen anyone, he should at least look at the statue and know what Daozu and his elderly parents are like, right? If the Taoist ancestor is merciful, perhaps he can also bestow 1 or 2 innate spiritual treasures. With this thought in mind, Yun-Yi quickly stepped forward and pushed the tightly closed door. The gate of Zixiao Palace was made of some divine wood, very tall and heavy. With a push from Yun-Yi, it remained motionless. Apprentice, you're crazy. How dare you be reckless without the invitation of the Taoist ancestor? Shiji was frightened. She never expected Yun-Yi to be so bold. As a descendant, Yun-Yi is indeed bold and fearless. As the saying goes, those who are bold will starve to death, while those who are cowardly will starve to death. Yun-Yi actually wants to push the door into the Purple Sky Palace. Unfortunately, the door cannot be pushed open. Yun-Yi didn't give up and turned his head, saying, Master, do you think I don't have magic and my strength is too weak to push away? Why don't you give it a try? As soon as these words were spoken, Shiji's lips turned white with fear. Entering without informing, this is not a thief, what is it? Apprentice, stop it. Entering without informing is a thief's behavior. What if the Taoist finds out? Shiji quickly said. Yunyi grinned and said, Master, why do you think that Daozu doesn't know now? Maybe this is Daozu's tacit approval. Nonsense. Shiji scolded, hurry up and leave, we can't do anything wrong. Sigh. Yunyi is speechless. Is this still the big villain, Lady Shiji? Surprisingly so pure and morally rich. However, in this world, what good fortune can a good person have? Take a look at Taoist Hongjun. Because of his kindness, he has given up his holy position and there is no good news. Just as Yunyi hesitated whether to give him another push, a rainbow suddenly flew in the sky and charged straight towards Yunyi. Get out of the way. Shiji was very clever, and with a wave of his sleeve, he swept away Yunyi. Boom. The rainbow suddenly hit the gate of Zixiao Palace, making a deafening sound. The originally tightly closed palace gate suddenly opened a gap. Yunyi sat down on the ground, flipped over, and was completely bewildered. Upon closer inspection, a gap opened in the front door. In front of the gap, a red gourd was slowly spinning and stopping. Isn't this the red gourd picked by Hongjun? Yunyi was shocked. Chapter 10. Daoti Dacheng. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. How could it be here? Isn't it in the hands of Hongjun? Did you say that Hongjun was tender to death? So, can this red gourd come to Zixiao Palace to file a complaint? No, it's not right. Is it seeking refuge in Zixiao Palace? Yunyi's heart suddenly shook, and he turned his head to look at the sky. His face immediately changed, and he grabbed the red gourd, grabbed Shiji's hand, and rushed into the gate of the Zixiao Palace. Apprentice, are you? Shiji was also shocked. Master, come in quickly, there will be changes if it's too late. Yunyi shouted, and Shiji instinctively felt a crisis. After rushing into the door, he quickly used his magic to close it. Boom. The gate of Zixiao Palace is completely closed, as if two worlds are completely separated from each other. Yunyi breathed a great sigh of relief. In the next moment, outside the gate, 2 rounds of the sun appeared, with Emperor Jun and Eastern Emperor Tai, as well as Kunlun Patriarch who followed closely behind. They stood in front of the Zixiao Palace, their faces turned black like the bottom of a pot. Red Cloud's little miscellaneous hair must have hidden in the purple cloud palace. What should we do now? Kunlun Patriarch looked sinister. Emperor Jun said, this is the place of Hongjun Daozu. We shouldn't be reckless. The thief from Hongjun is very clever. We know that this is the only place in these 9 days and 10 places where we dare not act recklessly. Kunlun Ancestor's face became even more gloomy as he said, is that all that matters? Should we? The meaning of Kunlun Ancestor is to forcefully break through the purple sky palace. However, Emperor Tai and Emperor Jun remained silent. In the depths of the pupils of Emperor Donghuang, there was a hint of fear. At his level, he was very wary of the unfathomable path of Hongjun Daozu. To be honest, even if he shook the Eastern Emperor Bell with all his might, he could not defeat Hongjun Daozu. He was very clear about this. Inside the purple sky palace, Yunyi is holding a red gourd in his hand, already sweating profusely. Shiji's hair was also cold and trembling, and his hands couldn't help but tremble. Apprentice, which immortal is outside? Shiji still didn't understand what had happened. Just now, outside the gate, a killing intent descended from the sky, and the overwhelming cold killing intent was so strong that it couldn't be melted, as if the air had solidified. Yunyi took a deep breath and glanced at the red gourd in his hand. Master, this red gourd belongs to a great immortal named Hongjun. He had fought with Emperor Jun and 1 or 2 demon emperors before. I thought they had gone north, but now only 1 red gourd is left to run back to Kunlun Mountain. As soon as these words were spoken, Shiji had already widened his eyes. This matter actually involves Emperor Jun and 1 or 2 demon emperors. How did this come about? What's this about us? Shiji still couldn't believe it. Yunyi smiled bitterly and said, "The bad thing is that we saw it." "Are you saying, how unlucky is that immortal named Hongjun?" 10-9. Yunyi sighed and clenched the red gourd tightly. The red gourd trembled slightly, and Hongyun's voice rang out in Yunyi's mind. "TSK, kid, you are indeed very smart. You actually understand everything. Not bad, my ancestor. I am Hongjun, and besides the two demon emperors, there is also the old miscellaneous Kunpeng Mao chasing me outside. My ancestor, I was ambushed by that despicable and shameless Kunpeng, and this is where I end up now." Yunyi trembled. "Damn your grandma, you've actually encountered such a thing yourself. Maybe you'll be killed and silenced." The three guys outside, none of them are small characters, and they are all ruthless and stunning, crushing ants like themselves without hesitation. Shiji also wants to understand. "Apprentice, what should we do now? Will their intrusion be detrimental to us?" Shiji felt uneasy. Yunyi didn't know. The red gourd trembled slightly, and Hongyun's voice quietly entered Yunyi's mind. "Don't worry, they dare not break in. I understand now that this is the fate of our ancestors. Our ancestors were tricked by Hongjun, and now they have landed in this field. Only Hongjun, the Purple Cloud Palace, can protect me. Let's go, take me, and enter the Purple Cloud Palace. I want to question Hongjun a little. Interrogate Hongjun. What are you thinking?" Yunyi pursed his lips and thought to himself that it would be great if he could protect you. "Moreover, you unlucky person who has put yourself in danger," Yunyi really feels regretful. Yunyi was actually afraid that the demon emperor and Kunpeng would break in, so he immediately raised his foot and walked towards the Purple Sky Palace. The Zixiao Palace was shrouded in darkness, as Yunyi and Shiji passed through the hall and passage into a chaotic airflow. Vague, unable to distinguish between left, right, front, and back. "Are we lost?" Yunyi and Shiji were shocked. Unexpectedly, there was a chaotic void in the Purple Sky Palace, and I didn't see where the Taoist ancestor was. "Walk to the left." Red Cloud pointed, and the red gourd aimed towards the left direction. Yunyi can only trust Hongjun, there is no way. A great deity like Hongjun should not get lost. Yunyi followed the guidance of Red Cloud and walked through the chaos for an unknown amount of time. Suddenly, his eyes became clear, and amidst the mist, a sheep intestine's path appeared at his feet. The path twists and turns, leading to a small hill not far away. The small hill is lush and green, with 100 zhang square green rocks standing at the highest point. Qinyan rises out of chaos, overlooking the sea of clouds. There are 4 cattails placed on top. Yunyi and Shiji arrived at Qinyan and looked around, but they couldn't see the figure of Hongjun Daozu. The red gourd trembled, and Red Cloud's voice was surprised. "It's strange that Hongjun Daozu is not here. Did he avoid it or did he go on a trip to the clouds?" No, with Daozu's way of doing things, who wouldn't know that I'm in trouble at this moment? He's avoiding it. Kid, it's temporarily safe. You sit down first. Red Cloud whispered. Yunyi could no longer walk and sat down on the Xiantian Yao Chao Putuan of Hongjun Daozu. As soon as Yunyi sat down, he felt relaxed all over. An unparalleled innate purple energy was transmitted from the rock below, first flowing into the Putuan and then into his body. The innate purple energy is vast and majestic, wandering throughout the body, pouring into the elixir field and being absorbed by the jade and stone figures. In an instant, the stubborn stone refining body accelerated its operation. At first, this divine ability was only a beginner, but with the blessing of innate purple energy, the divine ability began to accelerate and advance. Bang bang bang, strange sounds emanated from Yunyi's body. Shiji immediately saw that Yunyi's 7 orifices were emitting purple qi, and then his pores dilated and he also sprayed out a rich purple qi. Yunyi's skin, muscles, and bones are all beginning to sublimate and transform, and even Yunyi's hair is growing wildly. Shiji is already dumbfounded. She clearly felt that Yunyi's stubborn stone refining body was breaking through numerous limitations at an incredible speed and reaching the top level. Bang! Yunyi's bones crackled all over his body, and only a rock imprint appeared on his eyebrows. It was a deep blue color, truly supernatural. Has the stubborn stone path been formed? Shiji was shocked. You should know that her stubborn stone path has been cultivated for many years, only when she transformed into a human and advanced to become a human immortal. Now, it wasn't long since I passed on Yunyi, and Yunyi has been refined. Is this too fast? What exactly happened to my disciple? Yunyi also wants to know what happened to herself now. Why is it that as soon as I sit on the Pu Tuan of Hongjun Taoist ancestor, a vast innate energy pours in, and even pushes my stubborn stone refining body to great completion, refining it into the so-called stubborn stone Taoist body. At this point, Yunyi discovered that the Tao body was formed, and the spiritual energy absorbed between heaven and earth would no longer escape from the body. My own body has become a leak-free body, and I can practice the Great Way now.